One of the pitfalls that I think I have been seeing is companies, especially public companies, larger companies, they want to be very eager to display internally and externally that they're taking advantage of AI. And just painting a broad brush, CEOs want to be able to stand up and say, yes, we've empowered all of our employees to use AI. And behind the scenes, the CEO is saying, everybody needs to be doing this. The CEO may or may not actually understand what AI is and how it works or what it does. In many situations, it's, well, you already have Copilot, so what's the problem? And like, to use the hammer analogy, if you show up at work one day or there's a hammer on your desk and you're just told to use it, but nobody's actually shown you how to use it or how to get the greatest utility out of it. I think that's a pretty big pitfall that's happening right now, is that there's encouragement internally in large companies or organizations where they're being told, you have this tool, why aren't you using it, or you need to be using it? And the employees are saying, well, no one has ever shown us how to use it or what it's supposed to do or what are we supposed to expect out of it. And the leadership may or may not know how to communicate that. And so there's like just a circular pattern of
Failure?
ineffectiveness. Yeah, failure. I mean, that's the real thing, is what it is. And so I think there is like a need or probably a growing demand of people who want to be able to demonstrate and show this is how you use these tools to their greatest efficacy. There's probably a market for that already, and a market that'll grow of being able to say, yes, you have these tools, let me show you how to use them and to get some true gains out of them.
Yeah. That's probably a good segue. And I think we spend a lot of time talking about that. And it's a large part of like our goal. One of our goals for this year is take actionable, repeatable steps, start initiatives to address the one thing, and then you build from that, but then cascade that down through your organization. I think that's where a lot of leaders fail with, hey, do this thing, but they don't execute on the training. Let's talk about that. And so, for example, I'm a landman. I'm a field landman, and I need to, I'm working on a divestiture project, and I'm responsible for reviewing 100 or 1,000 documents for consent to assign. Right? What's the steps? How do you go about taking your $19.95 or your $20 a month Claude subscription and actually building a tool that allows you as an individual user, as a person, to take these 100 documents and analyze them for this language? Like, Jerris, what would the steps be for someone to do a basic thing like that? We're not talking about building an app that does all the things. It's just like, hey, I need help reading these documents and I got to do it quick.
Yeah. So the scalability is a big hurdle. But it shouldn't be a hurdle that stops people. I think there are enterprise type services and tools that are out there that could process the 1,000 documents for you. That's obviously going to cost a lot of money, and it may even take some time to build out to make that feasible to be able to do. So I'll stick with your example of one individual. How is one individual going to make this work better for them? And it's going to look and feel like a very manual process, but at the end of the day, your goal is to reduce keystrokes. Every keystroke that you make on your computer, your laptop, or whatever takes a fragment of time. And if you can reduce the number of keystrokes that you are doing, then that is reducing the amount of time that you're spending on that particular project. So for an individual who is starting off with a free or basic subscription to Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is, that process is going to be something as manual as, I'm going to take that document, upload it, I'm going to queue a prompt to it, and I'm going to let it spit out the results. I'm going to look at what those results are. If I like what the results are, then I know that my prompt is working. If I don't like what the results are, then I know I need to refine that prompt until it's spitting out an output that I can use repeatedly over and over again. And then at that point, it's generating the output that I need. And if I'm satisfied with that repeated output, Then it becomes something as easy as copying that output and pasting it into Excel or whatever document that's going to be, and then repeating it. Now, what I just described sounds like a very manual thing. And there may be people that are going, well, I could read that faster and just type it in. I would argue that in the beginning, for the first 10, 15, maybe 20 documents, it will feel like that you could have just read it faster and then input it. But once you get into a rhythm of uploading, it's analyzing, I'm verifying, copying, pasting, you're going to see that stuff is going to fly pretty fast. I did an experiment not too long ago where I was doing a similar process like that with lease analysis, and they were all different types of lease forms. And it took me, a couple of hours to dial in the prompt that I was using inside the tool and the output that it was getting. But eventually I got it to where it was analyzing all the provisions that I wanted it to do, and it was exhibiting that information in a row, a table row. And I could copy that row and paste it directly into Excel. Once I got dialed in, I was churning out oil and gas leases under 2 minutes. I was doing a full lease review. I was very much in the middle of it. I was directing, I was guiding every step of the way, but I was cranking out oil and gas lease analysis reviews in under 2 minutes per lease. That is
Yeah.
a massive, massive time savings over the course of a large project.
Yeah.
And
I think that a really important, what you're saying is exactly spot on. And I think a really good perspective that people should take, and that field landmen should take, that we're using in this analogy, is the AI is an intern. It's an infinitely knowledgeable intern, but the intern is only going to be able to do what you want to do as well as you describe what you want to do.
Yes.
It's relying on your context. And as soon as it gets good, it doesn't need your help anymore, right? And so just like the intern, imagine they're coming along with you. You're going to tell them what you want to do, and then you're going to say, come back when you're done. And then you're going to have to really spend time making sure that all of that work is done right. And as you continue to give it the same task, that intern the same task over and over, you're verifying less, you're reviewing less, until the point where you have confidence that that intern knows how to do the task that you gave it. And then as it goes, okay, I trust you to go do that, get it, come back. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then you give it the next task and the next task. Because if you treat it like an intern, your intern's only going to be as good as the training you provided, the context you provided. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And that setup phase is going to feel painfully slow.
Yes.
And it might even be like internally frustrating. It's like, why don't you know this? But it's worth the time and investment to make sure
Yeah.
that the intern or the bot knows how to do it correctly. And once you've spent that time and effort, it's no longer the bottleneck, right? Now it's an efficiency builder.
yeah. And then, as an individual user, now you've got that as your baseline knowledge of how to do that. And then you progress like, oh, okay, now I can do that. Now let me maybe use another tool to build me an app that can streamline that workflow. Right. And you can, systematically, brick by brick, build a great product and really get it a workflow that you can cascade to your team, that you can use to be a multiplier for yourself. I think that's the process. And I think that's what we're really trying to do. And that's what we encourage, all the way down to our crew chiefs on our projects, folks that we're working with, like, hey, these are capabilities. And that's what I think as an industry, we need to evidence. I think we need to go through these workflows, build these things and be vocal about it. Hey, this is what I'm able to do. It was clunky, but man, eventually I got here. And then that's just the seed for thought, a seed for innovation. And I think that's when we really get you up with the hammer.